Alright, YouTube, the Texas Dildo open carry protest is a little bit of a microcosm of the problem between the so-called two-party movement within the United States. You have Democrats, really the new wave left, the neoliberals, not always Democratic partisans, who think that guns should be banned and, everyone should be able to do whatever they want as far as fucking goes. You then have the neocon sort of moral traditionalists on the other side who have no problem with guns but don't want people to be able to fuck any way they want to fuck. My suggestion is, why don't you have both? I don't give a shit if people are carrying dildos around any more than I care if they carry guns. Here in far left Vermont, supposedly far left, we've got some of the weakest, aka most free, gun laws in the country. There's no permitting process for carrying things open or concealed. The only real regulation we have is against suppression, which may be going the way of the dinosaur soon. Our last bit of gun control might be repealed because people are noting, oh, yeah, you can actually suffer hearing damage, and these do have a use within sporting. Therefore, my suggestion again, it would be, why don't you have freedom of sexual expression and the right to keep and bear arms? Not just on college campuses, I mean everywhere. Why is it an either-or thing? Why is this group of students so directly and antithetically opposed to like the hippie mindset where they said, oh, we just want to be left alone, the government's evil? But then you have this group of students there, they would talk about, oh, but no, the government's actually good if they're passing the moral legislation that we want. You see, it's always moral legislation. The gun control argument is just a moralist principle. That's all it is. It's just a different set of morality that they're trying to impose upon other non-consenting individuals. It's the only difference. It's exactly the same. Somebody's saying, oh, well, gay people shouldn't be able to fuck each other. Lesbians shouldn't be able to fuck. People shouldn't be able to have, like, too many sex partners, or this class of people shouldn't be able to reproduce or something. There's no difference between that and people saying, oh, well, I don't like the fact that people would defend themselves with firearms because big, bad, mean, and scary, and therefore we need to, ignore the Constitution and do everything that we can to get as many of them out of as many hands as possible. And think of the children. It's exactly the same thing. That's how I know, looking at this, yeah, it's perfectly legal for them to carry on this protest. I don't really give a fuck. Nor would I care if people in a state where, like, guns are banned on campuses, if they started open carrying on campus, they'd probably get thrown in jail for it, but in my opinion, of course, it should be legal anyway. We got too many friggin' retarded laws anyway for them to enforce them all. That's why you get selective enforcement. That's why law enforcement gets a bad rap from so many people, because it's going to be spotty. It's going to be selective enforcement when you have, 10,000 volumes of laws that you technically are supposed to be enforcing at any given time. Should get back to the basics, get government out of all these things. What people do in their bedrooms or with each other. I don't care if people screw in public. I really don't. I don't have any fucks left to give about these things. I don't really care. All I care about is the future of the nation in its entirety and the perpetuation of liberty. Well, the same sort of movements, the same sort of mentality behind the movements, rather, that tells people, oh, you shouldn't be able to love who you want, marry who you want, fuck who you want, whatever, insert sort of moral dilemma here. It's the same exact mentality that's used by gun control advocates. It really is. I would stand in support of the University of Texas allowing people to carry firearms on campus. It was something I never quite understood. I never understood it here either. It's like when you have on your campus, you're not allowed to express certain constitutional rights there. I don't think that should be the case. I know that people would like to say, oh, but well, it's private property. No, it's state co-opted property. These schools, most of the time, are getting federal funding. Wouldn't that mean that because it's getting federal funding, you actually do have the right to carry your firearms? It's like colleges that say, oh, well, you can't speak freely. And this gets the ire up, primarily of the right wing, as well as on guns. For the left wing, it's something like protesting over an environmental cause, going on strike or protesting for, like, workers, getting a good wage or whatever, or anything related to sexuality. I see the two things fundamentally as the same. The left and right in this country don't even realize. I mean the real left and right. who seem fringe by comparison to like the lame-ass Clintonian neocons and neolibs, the McCains, the Clintons, the Romneys, the Bidens, the Obamas, all these lame-ass pretender-in-chief sort of people. The real left and the real right have always been fighting for the same thing without even realizing it. They're fighting for liberty. They're technically all libertarians. It just depends on what sort of issues they class as more or less important. I would say sexual rights and gun rights are both very important things. People have an innate right to determine such things for themselves. They're adults. These aren't like, middle school students. These are college. These are people who are above 18 years of age. These people are at the age of consent. They're old enough to own a gun. They're old enough to drive. They're old enough to smoke. Some of them are old enough to drink. By the way, we should lower that age to 18 or abolish the age of drinking age altogether, because that's not exactly constitutional either when you think about it. The federal government holds highway funding over the states' heads to keep them in line, by the way, on that issue. At any given time, they can change it to whatever they want. But nobody wants to be heavily taxed and then lose their road funding, because then your roads will fall apart. It's how the federal government usurps the Constitution most easily, through funding. Tax and fund. It's the oldest trick in the book, really. Oh, yeah, you don't have to pass this law, but we're going to withhold a bunch of money if you don't, so you might want to pass that law. I would say the students that are protesting guns, though, you shouldn't be worried about guns. What you should be worried about is oppressive government and oppressive regulation, even if it's coming from like a university or something. Oppressive authority in general. When did you get so cocked? I hate to use the term, but when did you get so cocked that you were actually looking at authority figures without questioning them? Because you go back to like the 60s and they were saying, oh, question everything, don't trust anybody over a certain age, anybody in a suit, don't trust them either, war is always evil. And now the new wave, like neoliberal groups, they're pro-war, or at least they vote for pro-war candidates like Hillary Clinton, because that's exactly what she fucking is. They don't really care about actual liberty. They don't question authority. They think if you question authority, it makes you a virulent racist as long as the person in the White House happens to have black skin. It's retarded. It couldn't be further from the sort of old guard left, to the point at which sort of the pot-smoking, acid-dropping hippies were really closer to like the founding ideology of the United States than today's neoliberals. That's the amazing thing about it. The same is true on the right wing. Old guard conservatives from the same era that really just wanted more limitations on government. They wanted to basically just be left alone and I guess watch fucking whatever was on TV, whatever weird atomic era sci-fi shit they had on at the time, Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie or something, or something like that, Gunsmoke. They were much closer to that original ideology than today's neocons. Today's neocons are basically about, no, we're not going to lower taxes, fuck you. Here's some moral laws to keep the evangelicals from bombarding us with complaints, and now we're just going to go to war with a bunch of people, because fuck you. And big businesses don't have to pay their fair share, small businesses get screwed, that way we can have more and more corporate monopolies, so that everything fucking falls apart. And the neoliberals do the same thing. There's nothing different that they're doing. The only difference is the moral laws they want to impose are almost invariably against offensive speech, as they would term it, or against the Second Amendment. It's moral laws. It's the same trick. It's a ruse. It's a filthy lie. So people should ignore the protest, I think, and people should probably tell the protesters, hey, why don't you protest for sexual equality instead of against somebody else's liberty? Because you're just acting like a bunch of retarded statists when you're doing this. That's the problem. And the same would be true, by the way, of people on the other side. When like all these evangelicals get together to rant about gays, why don't you do something in favor of liberty instead, like guns? Like the right to offend people with your speech, like states' rights, which we sorely, desperately right now need. Why aren't these the things that these people are focusing on? You'd have a libertarian American order if this were actually the case, and these people don't even realize it. It's astonishing to me that they don't. That's about all. Peace out.